Hi, I'm Dr. Sherjuana Davis with the Georgia Mind Center. I am a therapist, and I wanted to share with you 5 key lessons from the Kirk Franklin documentary. If you haven't had a chance to watch it, it's definitely worth checking out. There are just some essential pieces, particularly as it relates to adoption and family dynamics, that is definitely worth paying attention to. And I just wanted to highlight some key lessons that the documentary really showed in real time as he was going through these experiences. And this is part of these 5 key lessons are part of the Georgia Short Psychoeducational series. Before I get started, just wanted to share with you just a quick disclaimer that this presentation is for information and educational purposes only. It's not intended to be used as legal, medical, or psychological advice. Although the goal is to provide accurate general information, the information presented here is not a substitute for professional advice, and you should not rely solely on this information. Please consult with a licensed professional before making any psychiatric, psychological, professional, legal, instructional, financial, or tax related decisions. Lesson 1, the adoption triad. The adoption triad consists of 3 elements. There's a child, there is an adoptive family, and a biological family. The adoptive family, of course, is there to provide the nurturing. The biological family is also there and they help make up the child's genetic component. In the documentary, we were able to hear from 2 pieces of the adoption triad. We were able to hear from the adult, now child, Kirk, and he was able to describe his childhood up through adulthood and what that experience was like for him. We were also able to hear from the voices of his biological family members as well, his mother, as well as we were able to learn more about his biological father. The only missing piece to the documentary was actually the adoptive family component, his adoptive mother. Because she was deceased, she was not able to give her perspective. It would have been really good to also kind of hear her journey through this process as well. But it did a really good job of sharing just the complexities of the different components of the adoption triad. And each one has a voice, each one has a different experience. Lesson 2 was the open versus closed adoption and the impacts that it has on the adoptees. There are 2 types of adoptions. There's closed and then there's the open. The closed is when there is no contact between a child and biological mother and or father. And an open adoption is when a child does have contact with the biological mother and or father. What was really impactful, and I thought Kirk did a really good job of articulating the experience of an adoptee, what it was like for him with this open adoption that he had, because he still had contact with his biological mother. He was able to describe how painful that was each and every time she left, that those wounds, those hurts, those traumas were reopened each time she visited and each time that she went away. And he felt abandoned each time. So that was a pretty powerful piece. And I thought he did a really good job of really giving voice to the experience of adoptees. And he was able to contrast that with the experience of someone who may have had a closed adoption. So that was really a powerful part of the documentary as well. Grief and loss is another item that really stood out in this documentary. The grief and loss process usually goes in waves and it goes from denial to anger to bargaining to depression and acceptance, and it can go back and forth. It's not necessarily a linear path for people. And so you were able to see this throughout the documentary, just these grief points that Kirk was able to experience, as well as his father, right? We were able to see just that overall grief and the loss and the experiences that each had. And it makes you also wonder about his experience, his mother's experience as well, because there was in the process where she was finding out and learning more about his paternity, there was this tendency to deny what the paternity results were. So it was just a really powerful theme that was throughout the documentary, this notion of grief and loss and how it is ever changing even. He grieved his father, or the person he thought was his father one time, and then he grieved him again once he learned the results of that DNA test. So it was pretty powerful. Number four, generational trauma. We were able to see what happens when the person who's supposed to be the source of helping actually ends up being the source of hurt and sometimes pain. We were able to see the generational trauma, how the trauma of a parent can impact a child, and then that child's experience can impact their children's experience. So that was just a really powerful display of just generational trauma. And you could really empathize with each member of this family and the different experiences that they each had and how it impacted their lives. There was an attempt in the documentary, and it states that it's still continuing between the child, the adult child, and his child. There's an attempt at making that repair, which is positive. Just in this generation, he's able to try to make a repair so that it does not continue to perpetuate into future generations. So that was another powerful piece, that the child and the child's child, they're both adults, they were able to try to start repairing some of those wounds so that this does not have to carry on to yet another generation. So that was very positive and powerful. And the fifth item is seek help. It's very clear that Kirk has a huge support system, and he also had a therapist. So I just wanted to share with you just a couple of things for you to consider when it comes to recovery. And that is prioritizing well-being and peace of mind. It was very clear in the documentary that that was something that he was attempting to do. Even including setting some boundaries. So he talked about how he had to operate very differently with his mother now that he has this new information, and her reaction to this new information resulted in him setting some new boundaries. Then reaching out to trusted and safe people. So he was surrounded by people that he trusted and he felt safe with to share his information and his journey. He also sought out professional help. We were able to see him interact with a psychotherapist, and also there are support groups out there as well for people who are having this experience, so that they feel like they're not alone as well. I just wanted to leave you with just some information. If you feel like you are in crisis and you need some extra support, there is a national suicide and crisis lifeline. 988 is the number. Thank you for watching, and remember, you deserve peace of mind.